When looking for the perfect vampire to turn you into a vampire, there are a few factors to consider. We'll be going over them in this instructional video. There are a variety of reasons why you might want to become a vampire, and those reasons are your own. If you do not wish to become a vampire, but wish to learn how one may find the perfect vampire to turn into a vampire, feel free to continue watching this video at your leisure. The first step in finding the perfect vampire for you is identifying if you are already a vampire. While this may seem counterintuitive, it is an extremely important first step, as people may not be aware that they are already vampires. Here is a checklist of common vampire traits that you may look through. Do you have pale skin? Do you experience extreme third-degree burns and disintegration when exposed to sunlight? Do you have very good night vision? Are you able to turn into a bat? Did your father leave you? When drinking human blood, do you feel invigorated and refreshed? If you answered yes to 100% of the above questions, you may be a vampire, in which case you have no reason to seek out the perfect vampire to transform you into a vampire. If you answered no to any of the following questions, then you are most likely not a vampire, in which case you may proceed to watch the rest of the video. Before seeking out any vampire to bite you, you should first understand the vampire transformation process. Typically, a person may become a vampire in 3 different ways: a curse from a witch, dying unbaptized, and a bite from a vampire. If you wish to become a vampire utilizing the first 2 methods, you may stop watching this video now or continue watching at your leisure. Knowing the rest of the video may prove not to be useful to you. A vampire bite works by transferring bacteria that lives in a vampire's mouth into your bloodstream. These bacteria are exclusive to vampires and cannot be found anywhere else in the world. However, just like any other bacteria, a trip to the dentist will greatly reduce the size of these bacteria colonies, so plan your transformation around your vampire's next dentist appointment for the best odds of success. In order to transfer bacteria into your bloodstream, the vampire must use its canine teeth and puncture the skin. Canine teeth work the best, however any other teeth are okay, as long as they can puncture the skin. The teeth must then make contact with a vein or blood vessel. Instruct your vampire to avoid making contact with an artery, as the high blood pressure of an artery causes risk of excessive bleeding. Contrary to popular belief, the vampire is not required to suck your blood, so you may decide if you want your blood drained at your own discretion. A bite on the neck is also not mandatory, so arrange where you feel most comfortable being bitten with your vampire. A good vampire host will always respect your wishes. Now that you understand the mechanics of vampire transformation and you still wish to proceed, we can begin going over finding the right vampire for you. Just like humanity has a wide variety of shapes and colors, so too does the vampire world. Hundreds, in fact. But rather than go over all the different types of vampires, I will break down vampires into 4 different categories: vampires with long hair, vampires with short hair, ugly vampires, and politicians. The typical vampire with short hair will have short hair. While short is a debatable term, typically this will mean hair that is not long. Vampires with short hair that may come to mind are Edward Cullen and Dracula. If you are bitten by this vampire, your hair will become short, and you may also become beautiful. Choose this vampire if you want short hair and want to become beautiful. The typical vampire with long hair will have circular glasses. This hair will always be in a ponytail, and as it is indestructible, it will never not be long. Do not choose this vampire if you do not want long hair. Instead, opt for a shorter hair vampire, an ugly vampire, or a politician. Ugly vampires have a much more distinct look from their other vampire cousins. While the short hair vampire is beautiful and the long hair vampire is debatable, ugly vampires are without a shadow of a doubt ugly. They resemble a foul beast and look much more like a bat than a human. This may be the vampire for you if you wish to be ugly. Politicians are not worth mentioning. In the 21st century, practically all vampires are online, even the ugly ones. Craigslist is filled with vampires, and you may have the most amount of success here. Don't give much thought to whether or not you prefer to be bitten by a male or female vampire. While this choice is entirely yours, there is no difference between how the 2 bite. Once you have given some thought as to what vampire you would like to bite you, approach any vampire of your choice. Ask them if they would like to bite you. Each vampire will have a different code of ethics and morals and will approach the transformation process differently. Remember, they've gone through this before too, and they might have their own ideas about what is right for you. Some vampires may opt for a bite and buy, while some may prefer a long-term master-apprentice relationship spanning a few hundred years. Some may even opt for you to become their familiar and servant before they commit to your transformation. Although it is always up to you to decide on your terms how you would like to become a vampire, please consider that vampires are sentient beings with their own desires and morals. Consider using a legally binding agreement if you have any doubts about whether or not the vampire you have chosen is trustworthy. How the bite goes is entirely up to you, although some opt for candles and some opt for a much more casual setting. Congratulations, you have left this mortal coil and have entered a new plane of agelessness, attracting sapiosexuals and heightened senses. You are now smarter, faster, and paler than the rest of us. Good for you! While you are now a vampire, there are still a few precautions you must take. First, please avoid stepping into the sun, as this may prove to be fatal. Please avoid having a stake driven through your heart, as this may prove to be fatal. Please avoid garlic, as this may give you bad breath, and please avoid loitering outside small businesses after closing hours in the night. That's not cool, and I'll see you again soon.